a small and beautiful African kingdom, life was full of stories and mysteries. The people believed in ancient magic, curses, and the spirits of the land. These beliefs were not just tales told by elders, they were a part of everyday life. Among the vibrant markets, the fields of golden crops, and the villages with colourful homes, there was also fear. Everyone knew of the forbidden forest, a place filled with magic and danger, where only the brave or foolish dared to go. This was the world where a young girl named Zuri lived. Zuri was a quiet but strong girl, with a kind heart that made her loved by many, even if she didn't realize it. Her life, however, was not easy. She lived under the rule of her cruel stepmother Naya and her vain stepsister Aeni. Nia was a proud and greedy woman, always seeking more power and beauty, no matter who she hurt. Aeni, her daughter, had inherited her mother's cruelty. She was beautiful on the outside but spoiled and mean on the inside. Zuri, in contrast, was often mocked for her plain appearance and gentle nature. Her days were filled with endless chores, and every mistake was met with scolding and ridicule. Even with all this suffering, Zuri never gave up hope. She had a quiet strength that kept her going. At night, she would sit by the window in the small, cold room she slept in and dream of a better life. She remembered her late mother, Aeni, who had been warm and loving, and wished she could feel that kind of love again. Sometimes, Zuri thought she could hear her mother's voice calling to her, whispering softly in the wind. Though her life was hard, Zuri's heart remained full of hope and kindness. This was Zuri's world, a mix of magic, mystery, and hardship. Little did she know, her life was about to change forever. Something deep within the forest was waiting for her, and a secret about her past was ready to be uncovered. Zuri's days were long and filled with hard work. Every morning, before the sun rose, she would wake up to the sharp voice of her stepmother, Naya, ordering her to start her chores. She scrubbed floors until her hands ached, fetched water from the well that was far from the house, and cooked meals that she was rarely allowed to eat herself. If she missed a single spot while cleaning or took too long to finish her tasks, Nia would scold her harshly, calling her useless. Aeni, her stepsister, was no kinder. She loved to show off her fine clothes and jewelry, sneering at Zuri's simple and worn-out dresses. "Look at you, Zuri," Aeni would say, laughing cruelly. "No one will ever notice someone as plain as you." Despite the insults and the endless work, Zuri never let her spirit break. She kept her head down and her hands busy, but in her heart, she dreamed of a different life. She would often pause for a moment while fetching water or sweeping the yard, looking up at the sky and imagining a world where she was free. She pictured herself walking through fields of flowers, laughing with friends, or living in a warm home filled with love, just as it had been when her mother, Aeni, was alive. Sometimes, Zuri would hum soft songs her mother used to sing, melodies that gave her comfort in her loneliness. She didn't hate Nia or Aeni, even though they treated her so badly. Zuri believed that being kind and hopeful was better than letting anger take over her heart. One day, she thought to herself, "I'll find a way to be happy again." Even though her life was full of suffering, Zuri's quiet strength and gentle nature shone like a light. She didn't know it yet, but her kindness and hope would soon lead her to a destiny far greater than she could ever imagine. Not far from the village, there was a dark and mysterious forest that everyone feared. The trees in the forbidden forest were so tall and thick that sunlight could barely pass through their branches. Strange sounds came from deep inside, like whispers in the wind, or the distant cries of animals no one had ever seen. The villagers believed the forest was cursed and spoke in hushed voices about Naya, the powerful enchantress said to live there. Some said Naya could control the spirits of the forest, and others believed she cursed anyone who dared to enter. Parents warned their children to stay far away, and no one dared to step beyond the edge of the trees. At home, Naya was especially strict about the forest. She warned Zuri never to go near it, saying it was a dangerous place where terrible things could happen. "If you even think of entering that forest, you'll bring ruin upon us all," Nia would say, her voice sharp and commanding. But Zuri noticed something strange. Whenever Nia talked about the forest, her face would pale, and she seemed nervous, as if she was hiding something. Even though Zuri obeyed her stepmother, she couldn't help but feel curious. Sometimes, when she was outside doing chores, she would hear villagers talking about the forest. They whispered about the magical plants that grew there and the strange lights that sometimes flickered between the trees at night. Some said the forest was alive, watching anyone who came near. Others claimed that Naya was not just an enchantress, but a protector, keeping a great secret hidden deep within. Zuri's curiosity grew every day, especially when she began having dreams of her mother's voice, calling her toward the forest. The dreams felt so real that she could almost feel the cool shade of the trees and hear the soft rustling of leaves. She started to wonder if the forest held answers to the questions she had always been afraid to ask. Questions about her mother's mysterious death and why her stepmother was so afraid of what lay within. Though she was forbidden to go near the forest, Zuri felt a strange pull, as if it was calling her. The mysteries of the forbidden forest were waiting for her, and deep in her heart, she knew she couldn't ignore them forever. Many years before Zuri was old enough to understand the world, her stepmother, Nia, had a secret so terrible that she worked hard to hide it from everyone. Nia was not always the powerful and beautiful woman the villagers saw. Once, she was desperate for beauty, wealth, and power that would make her the most admired woman in the kingdom. She wanted more than what she had and was willing to do anything to get it. One dark night, Nia ventured into the forbidden forest, ignoring the warnings of the villagers. She sought out Naya, the enchantress everyone feared. The forest seemed alive as Nia walked through it, with shadows moving and whispers filling the air. Finally, she reached Naya's dwelling, a hidden place glowing faintly with magical light. Naya was unlike anyone Naya had ever seen. She was calm and powerful, her eyes seeming to look straight into Naya's soul. "I know why you have come," Naya said, her voice quiet but full of power. "You want beauty and power, but such things come at a cost." Nia, blinded by her greed, did not care about the price. She begged Naya to help her, promising to give anything in return. Naya warned her that the magic she sought was dangerous and would bring consequences one day, but Nia refused to listen. Naya performed the ritual, a dark and terrible spell. For it to work, something precious had to be sacrificed. Nia chose Aeni, Zuri's mother and her own sister-in-law, who was known for her kindness and beauty. Aeni trusted Nia, never suspecting the betrayal. During the ritual, Aeni was taken as the price for Nia's desires. As the spell ended, Nia felt herself grow more beautiful and powerful, her wishes fulfilled. But as Naya looked at her, she spoke a chilling warning. "This magic comes with a curse. One day, the sacrifice will seek justice. You cannot escape what you have done." Nia dismissed Naya's warning, confident that her new power would protect her. She returned to the village, lying about Aeni's disappearance and taking control of her household. Over the years, she worked to erase all traces of Aeni, forcing Zuri into servitude and pretending everything was normal. But deep inside, Nia was haunted by fear. She avoided the forbidden forest and grew angry whenever anyone mentioned it. What Nia didn't know was that the curse was already at work, waiting for the right moment to bring her betrayal to light. And that moment was growing closer with each passing day. Aeni, Nia's daughter, was just as vain and cruel as her mother. She loved nothing more than admiring herself in mirrors and showing off her beauty. Her room was filled with shiny jewelry, fine clothes made from the richest fabrics, and perfumes that made her smell like rare flowers. Whenever she walked through the village, she made sure everyone noticed her, tossing her long hair and laughing loudly. Aeni believed she was better than everyone else, especially Zuri. At home, Aeni treated Zuri terribly. She never lifted a finger to help with chores, always leaving the hard work to Zuri. If Zuri brought her food, Aeni would complain that it wasn't prepared perfectly. If Zuri swept the floors, Aeni would purposely spill things just to make her do it again. "You'll never be anything, Zuri," Aeni would say, smirking. "Who could ever care about someone like you?" Her words were sharp and cruel, meant to make Zuri feel small. Aeni's favorite pastime was parading around in her fancy dresses and teasing Zuri about her plain appearance. "You're so boring, Zuri. No one will ever look twice at you," she would say, spinning in front of a mirror while Zuri quietly cleaned in the corner. But Zuri, as always, kept her head down and stayed kind, refusing to let Aeni's words break her spirit. One day, Nia and Aeni came up with a grand plan. They decided that Aeni would marry a wealthy nobleman from a neighboring kingdom. Nia was determined to make the match happen, seeing it as a way to grow her influence and secure more riches. Aeni was thrilled by the idea of becoming even more powerful and important. Together, they began preparing for the nobleman's arrival, ordering Zuri to clean the house from top to bottom and help Aeni look perfect for the meeting. As Zuri worked tirelessly to prepare for Aeni's big moment, she felt more alone than ever. She wasn't jealous of Aeni's beauty or riches, but she couldn't help feeling like she didn't belong. While Nia and Aeni planned their future filled with wealth and power, Zuri was left to dream of a life where she could finally be free. What none of them knew was that the future would not go the way they expected, and that Zuri's true worth was about to be revealed in a way no one could have imagined. For years, Zuri had accepted her life of hardship. She believed that if she worked hard and stayed kind, things would eventually get better. But lately, something inside her had started to change. At night, she dreamed of her mother, Aeni. In the dreams, her mother's face was gentle and full of love, just as Zuri remembered. But Aeni seemed to be calling to her, reaching out with a soft voice. "Come to the forest, Zuri," she would say. "Find the truth." The dreams felt so real that Zuri would wake up with her heart racing and tears in her eyes. The dreams made Zuri think deeply about her life. Why did Nia hate her so much? Why did her stepmother never talk about her mother? And why did Nia seem so afraid of the forbidden forest? The questions began to grow louder in Zuri's mind, and she realized she couldn't ignore them anymore. She started to wonder if the answers to her pain and loneliness might be hidden in the forest her mother spoke of in her dreams. During the day, as she scrubbed floors and carried water, Zuri's thoughts wandered. She began noticing small things that didn't make sense, like how Nia would grow pale whenever someone mentioned the forest, or how Aeni seemed to know nothing about Aeni, as if Nia had erased her completely. The more Zuri thought about it, the angrier she became. She loved her mother deeply and couldn't understand why her memory was treated like something to be hidden. One evening, after a long day of work, Zuri sat by her small window, looking out at the stars. The dreams of her mother calling to her felt like a sign, urging her to act. "I can't live like this anymore," she whispered to herself. "I need to know the truth about what happened to my mother, and I think the forest is the only place where I'll find it." For the first time, Zuri felt a spark of rebellion in her heart. She was tired of being silent and afraid. She decided that no matter what dangers might lie ahead, she would go to the forbidden forest. She would find out what Nia was hiding and uncover the truth about her mother's mysterious death. The thought gave her courage, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. One quiet night, when the village was fast asleep, Zuri decided it was time. The dreams of her mother calling to her had become too strong to ignore. She wrapped herself in a simple shawl to keep warm and stepped outside. The air was cool, and the moonlight lit her path as she walked toward the edge of the forbidden forest. Her heart raced with fear, but she kept going. "I have to do this," she whispered to herself, "for Mama." The closer she got to the forest, the darker the night seemed to become. The trees loomed tall and twisted, their branches like hands reaching out to her. Strange sounds echoed around her, rustling leaves, faint whispers, and the distant hoot of an owl. Zuri hesitated at the edge, her hands trembling. All her life, she had been told that this place was dangerous, cursed, but something deep inside her told her she was meant to be here. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the forest. The air felt different inside, thicker, heavier, almost alive. Zuri walked cautiously, her bare feet crunching on the leaves. The deeper she went, the more the forest seemed to change. Glowing plants lit her path, and tiny sparks of light floated around like fireflies. It was beautiful, but also strange, like stepping into another world. Zuri felt both fear and awe as she moved forward. After what felt like hours, she reached a clearing. In the center stood a figure draped in flowing robes, her presence both calm and powerful. Zuri knew at once that this was Naya, the enchantress of the forest. Naya's eyes glowed softly as she looked at Zuri, and her voice was smooth and steady when she spoke. "You've come at last, child," she said. "I have been waiting for you." Zuri felt her knees tremble, but she stood firm. "Why have you been waiting for me? And why do I feel like my mother brought me here?" she asked, her voice shaky but determined. Nia nodded slowly. "Because it is time for you to know the truth," she said. Nia then revealed the terrible secret that had been hidden from Zuri all her life. She told Zuri how Nia, desperate for beauty and power, had come to the forest many years ago. Nia had granted Nia's wish, but the price was Keone's life. Zuri's mother had been sacrificed in a dark ritual, betrayed by Nia's greed. "Your mother was a kind and gentle soul," Nia said, her voice filled with sadness. "She did not deserve what was done to her. But the curse Nia brought upon herself is still waiting to be fulfilled." Zuri felt a wave of emotions: anger, sorrow, and confusion. Tears filled her eyes as she thought of her mother's kindness and how unfairly she had been taken away. "Why did Nia do this?" Zuri whispered, her voice trembling. Nia placed a gentle hand on Zuri's shoulder. "Because greed blinds people, but you, Zuri, are different. You have the strength to bring justice and restore what was lost." Nia gave Zuri a small, glowing amulet. "This belonged to your mother," Nia explained. "It is a symbol of her love and the legacy you carry. With it, you will uncover your true power and destiny." Zuri held the amulet tightly, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, she felt connected to her mother again. Though her heart was heavy with the truth, Zuri left the forest with a new sense of purpose. She now understood the weight of her mother's sacrifice and the role she was meant to play. It was time to face Nia and uncover her true destiny. As Zuri stood in the heart of the forbidden forest, Nia's words hung heavy in the air. The enchantress gazed at her with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. "Zuri," Nia said softly, "what your stepmother Nia has done is not without consequence. The magic she used to gain power and beauty came with a price, a curse that cannot be avoided. She thought she could outrun it, but curses have a way of finding justice." Zuri listened carefully, her hands clutching the glowing amulet Nia had given her. "What does this curse mean?" she asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Nia's expression grew serious. "When Nia sacrificed your mother, she did more than betray a life. She disturbed the balance of nature and magic. The curse I warned her about is tied to her greed and her lies. It has been waiting for the moment when the truth would be revealed, and that moment begins with you." Zuri's heart raced. "Me? Why me?" she asked, feeling a mix of fear and determination. Nia gave her a small, knowing smile. "Because you are your mother's daughter. Keone's spirit lives on through you, and her love has given you the strength to find your way here. You are the rightful heir to her legacy, a legacy that Nia stole when she took your mother's life." Zuri stared at the amulet in her hands. It was small and simple, but it glowed with a warm, golden light that felt comforting and powerful at the same time. Nia explained, "This amulet was your mother's. It is more than just a keepsake. It is a symbol of who you are and the power you carry within you. When you embrace your true self, the curse placed on Nia and Aeni will begin to unravel. Everything they built on lies will fall apart, and the justice your mother deserves will come." Zuri felt a strange mix of emotions: grief for her mother, anger at Nia's betrayal, and hope for the future. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice filled with determination. Nia looked at her with pride. "You must return home and face them. The amulet will guide you when the time is right. Remember, Zuri, your strength does not come from revenge or anger. It comes from the love your mother gave you and the kindness you've always shown. That is what will set you apart." Zuri felt a new sense of purpose growing inside her. The amulet's glow seemed to match the fire in her heart. "I will honor my mother and claim what is rightfully mine." she said firmly. Naya nodded, her expression softening. You are ready, Zuri. The truth is your greatest weapon, and with it, you will bring light where there has been darkness for too long. With the amulet around her neck, Zuri left the forest. Her fear was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, but she was no longer the timid girl who only dreamed of a better life. She was ready to face her destiny and uncover the truth, no matter what it cost. As Zuri left the forbidden forest, her mind was filled with Nia's words. She kept the glowing amulet close to her heart, feeling its warmth like her mother's embrace. The truth about Nia's betrayal weighed heavily on her, but what Naya revealed next had changed everything. Zuri was not just an ordinary girl. She was the daughter of Aeni, who had been more important than Zuri ever realized. When Zuri reached a quiet spot to rest, she looked at the amulet and remembered Naya's final words. Your mother was a descendant of the royal family, Naya had said. She was the last rightful heir to the throne, chosen to bring peace and prosperity to the kingdom. Nia knew this, and it is why she betrayed Aeni. Nia wanted the power and riches of the royal bloodline for herself and her daughter, Aeni. Zuri's heart ached as the truth sank in. Her mother had been destined to lead the kingdom, but her life had been stolen by greed and cruelty. And because of Nia's lies, Zuri had grown up as a servant in her own home, unaware of her true heritage. Everything made sense now. Why Nia had always kept her at the edge of the family, treating her as if she didn't belong. Nia and Aeni had built their status and wealth by taking what rightfully belonged to Zuri and her mother. Zuri thought back to the villagers, who always spoke of the royal family with sadness. Long ago, the kingdom had been peaceful and fair, but now it was ruled by greed and vanity, with Nia and Aeni at the center. Zuri realized that the villagers had suffered just like she had, trapped under Nia's false rule. Her mother's legacy had been stolen, but Zuri felt the fire of determination rising in her chest. She would not let this injustice continue. Nia's words echoed in her mind. The amulet is a key to your mother's legacy. It will help you find the strength to reclaim what is yours. Zuri held the amulet tightly, feeling its golden glow spread through her. She no longer felt powerless or small. Her mother's blood ran through her veins, and she was ready to honor Aeni's memory. Zuri understood that claiming her rightful place would not be easy. Nia and Aeni had spent years building their false power, and they would not give it up without a fight. But Zuri knew the truth now, and with the villagers' support, she believed she could set things right. She was not just a servant girl, she was the true heir to the throne, and she would make her mother proud. With every step back toward the village, Zuri felt her confidence growing. She was no longer afraid of Nia's cruelty or Aeni's mockery. She had a purpose now, and she would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Zuri was ready to claim her legacy and bring justice to the kingdom. As Zuri walked back toward the village, she could feel something changing within her. The amulet around her neck glowed softly, filling her with warmth and strength. It was as if the amulet was awakening a part of her she had never known. Zuri felt lighter, stronger, and more confident with every step she took. She no longer felt like the timid girl who had been pushed around by Nia and Aeni. She felt powerful, like her mother's love and legacy were alive in her. When Zuri reached the village, people began to notice her. At first, they only glanced at her, but soon they couldn't look away. Her plain clothes still hung on her frame, but there was something radiant about her now. Her skin glowed like sunlight, and her once hidden beauty shone through. Her eyes, filled with determination and kindness, seemed to draw people in. Villagers whispered to one another, wondering what had changed about Zuri. She looks so different, one woman murmured. It's not just her looks, said another. There's something about her, something powerful. Zuri felt their eyes on her, but didn't shy away. Instead, she stood tall and smiled kindly at those she passed. She wasn't used to being noticed, but she understood that the amulet was revealing her true self, her inner strength, beauty, and spirit. The villagers, who had been weighed down by Nia's harsh rule, began to see Zuri as something more than a servant. To them, she was a symbol of hope, a reminder that goodness and justice could still exist. As she moved through the streets, people began to approach her. Some wanted to thank her for her kindness over the years, while others simply wanted to be near her. Zuri listened to their stories, offering comforting words and gentle smiles. She realized that the villagers had suffered just as much as she had under Nia's rule. The more she listened, the more determined she became to stand up for them, just as she was standing up for herself. For the first time, Zuri felt like she truly belonged. The glow of the amulet wasn't just about her appearance, it was about her heart and the courage she was finding within herself. She didn't need Nia's approval or Aeni's cruel words to define her anymore. She was Zuri, the daughter of Kioni, and she was ready to embrace her destiny. By the time Zuri reached her small home, a quiet crowd had formed behind her. The villagers didn't say much, but their presence spoke volumes. They believed in her. They saw her as more than a servant girl. They saw her as a leader, someone who could bring light to the darkness. Zuri felt their hope, and it gave her strength. She knew that this was just the beginning, but for the first time in her life, she felt truly ready for the challenges ahead. Nia sat in her grand room, looking out of the window at the villagers gathering around Zuri. Her eyes narrowed as she watched the once quiet girl walk with confidence, her head held high. Something was different about Zuri. Her beauty, her presence, even the way that people looked at her. Nia's heart twisted with jealousy and fear. How could this be happening? For years she had worked to keep Zuri hidden, to make her feel small and unimportant, and yet here she was, glowing like a queen, attracting everyone's attention. Aeni stormed into the room, her face red with anger. "Mother, have you seen her?" she cried. "Zuri looks different. Everyone is talking about her and they're ignoring me." Aeni's voice was sharp, full of frustration and envy. She had always prided herself on being the most beautiful girl in the village, the one everyone admired. But now, Zuri was stealing the spotlight, and Aeni couldn't stand it. Nia turned to Aeni, her expression dark. "Something is happening," she said quietly. "Zuri is changing. I don't know how, but it's not natural." Nia's mind raced as she remembered the warning from Naya all those years ago. Could this be the curse she had dismissed? Was Zuri's transformation a sign that her lies and greed were catching up to her? Nia clenched her fists. She couldn't let everything she had built for Aeni fall apart. As the days passed, Aeni grew more obsessed with Zuri's transformation. She noticed the amulet Zuri wore around her neck and how it seemed to glow softly, like it held some kind of magic. Aeni convinced herself that the amulet was the reason Zuri had changed. "It must be the amulet," she told her mother. "It's making her beautiful and powerful. If I had it, I could be even more admired. I could be unstoppable." Nia hesitated. She knew tampering with magic could be dangerous, but her fear of losing everything was stronger. "If you're right," Nia said slowly, "then we must get that amulet. It doesn't belong to her. You deserve it, Aeni. You are the one who should shine, not her." Aeni smiled wickedly, her jealousy burning brighter. She began to plot how she would steal the amulet from Zuri. She watched Zuri closely, studying her every move, waiting for the perfect moment. In her mind, Aeni pictured herself wearing the amulet, the villagers praising her beauty and power. She believed that with the amulet, she could have everything she ever wanted, and Zuri would fade into the background where she belonged. Neither Nia nor Aeni realized the danger of their greed. They didn't know that the amulet's magic was tied to Zuri's true self and her mother's legacy. Their envy blinded them to the warnings Naya had given, and the curse that still hung over them. But Zuri was no longer the timid girl they could easily control. She had found her strength, and soon Nia and Aeni's greed would lead them to their own downfall. Late one night, when the moonlight was faint, Aeni crept through the dark halls of the house, her footsteps silent as a cat's, her heart pounded with excitement and greed. She had been watching Zuri closely for days, waiting for the perfect chance to take the glowing amulet.